Hey, what's up guys? I am Mini Pride, and the Mortal Kombat world has been in a frenzy over the last few days. Kind of ridden out the storm, watched from the shadows, bided my time, and waited to see how things played out, but I shall stay silent no longer. For those who don't know, a couple days ago, either an internal tester or some kind of very angry, very spiteful, very disgruntled employee leaked an obscene amount of information about Mortal Kombat 11. And the highlight of those leaks was, well, the entire playable roster. A roster that had not been revealed yet. NetherRealm Studios is like a lot of other fighting game companies in that instead of blowing their entire load early, they'll slowly reveal content and characters all the way up until launch day essentially, just to keep that hype train rolling, to make sure that the game is constantly on your mind. They'll drip feed and they'll tease, and they will go reveal by reveal. But this style pisses some people off, obviously, and it begs a couple of questions. For one, we know the MK11 beta is coming out on March 28th. Is it really okay to entice people to pre-order the beta when it's guaranteed that your customers aren't going to know a huge portion of what they're purchasing in regards to the final roster and game modes come beta time? A beta that you won't have access to unless you pre-order? I mean, the pre-order beta comes almost a full month before release. Just think about how many reveals will take place between March 28th and April 23rd. So, leaks like this, when we find out the entire roster, can kind of benefit customers in a way, right? Because suddenly, overnight, people know exactly what they're getting for their money when they pre-order the game. And for some people, whether they purchase or not is entirely dependent on how that final roster looks like. At the same time, though, it's completely unacceptable behavior. If you sign an NDA, if you're given a position of trust within a company, you have to honor that. You have to live up to your side of the bargain. You're put in a position of privilege to play and test a game way before anyone else gets to. Instead of respecting that, someone ended up doing something pretty malevolent and almost cartoonishly evil, and they're gonna get the book thrown at them too. It cannot end well for the person who leaked all that information. At best, they're never gonna get to work in this industry again, and at worst, they're gonna get sued into oblivion and beg for death before Warner Bros. And NRS Shatterdome their life. I empathize with NRS here. They trusted someone who burned them bad. They had a carefully curated marketing plan and reveal order that real people, just like you and me, were putting real time, effort, and energy into, putting their own blood, sweat, and tears into that development cycle, and then, boom, snap of a finger, it all goes up in smoke. But at this point, the cat's out of the bag. Almost every major Mortal Kombat YouTuber has already covered the leak. PC Gamer, Test Your Might, Reddit, even random high-profile legit news sites have covered it as well, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. NRS has beef with the douchebag who leaked it in the first place, not the people who covered it once it was already out there in the public domain. Because once it's on the interwebs, it's gonna be there forever. There's no getting it back or keeping it quiet. People know about it now, and there's no changing that. So with that in mind, let's talk about the full roster. My thoughts, what I like, what I don't like, and who I would have preferred instead. Because while it is a pretty hype roster, and there's a lot to like about it, and a lot of my favorites are honestly returning, a lot of them aren't. And I think there are some pretty strange inclusions that would have been better suited being swapped out for a bit more diversity. So, spoiler warning ahead. If you do not want to know what the final roster looks like, click away from this video right meow. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you're still here? Good. Good. Let's do it. So, this is one of the screenshots that was leaked. There's no point arguing about whether it's legit or not. With all the information and screens that have come out over the last couple of days, the fact that it matches perfectly with the Steam achievements that were already leaked a couple weeks back, and the full list of voice actors, there's beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is accurate and this is legit. So, we're looking at Jackie Briggs, Cetrion, who is rumored to be the daughter of Chronica and rocking a plant aesthetic, kind of similar to Poison Ivy from the DC universe, Kano, Geras, Frost, who's the protege of Sub-Zero, clearly not finished because she's effing bald right now, so I bet there's going to be a lot more work done on her, and obviously the gear system will change that stuff up anyway. We got Jax, Johnny Cage, Devora, who's going to be having a hell of a time in story mode now that literally every single character she has ever betrayed or wronged in MKX will all be making their way back into the sequel. It's going to be a pretty awkward situation for her. We got Baraka, Cassie, Kung Lao, Kotal Khan, Aaron Black, which has me so hyped because he and Goro are my mains in MKX. There's a very good chance I'll be picking him up again in MK11. Liu Kang, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Raiden. Duh, those were all pretty obvious. And the Collector, looking like a rare breed of Digimon. Newcomer to the cast, never seen him before. We got Cabal, who had already been revealed, and honestly looks dope. Looks way less execution heavy and way more fun than they did in MK9. Jade, who looks great, but appears to have very little combo potential based on her gameplay reveal, so I'm not that excited for her return, if I'm being completely honest. Got Scarlet, Noob Saibot, a fan favorite. We'll talk more about him in a minute. Sonya, Katana, Shao Kahn as the pre-order bonus, and then 3 unlockable characters that were also spoiled in the leak. Melina, Shinnok, and Shang Tsung, who, if rumors are to be believed, is actually being voiced by none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Cary Tagawa. Played him in, of course, some of the Mortal Kombat movies. So, Melina makes me incredibly happy. She's in my top 5 Mortal Kombat characters of all time. Just absolutely love her. One of my favorites. Awesome lore and playstyle. And she really came into her own in MKX with real motivations and an actual story arc that was worth telling. It would have been a pretty big shame to do all that stuff with her in the last game and then cut her out of the sequel. But she will be returning. Big highlights for me are Noob Saibot and Erron Black. Noob is, of course, Boone Tobias, spelled backwards, named after the creators of the series, and he made his triumphant return in MK9, only to kind of be tossed aside and forgotten about in MKX. Without question, one of the most beloved ninjas of all time, and he is the original Sub-Zero, returned from the dead, filled with malice, and unleashed on the world with his own form of shadow powers. He had some really swaggy combos in MK9 the last time he was playable. Frame traps for days, lots of zoning and control over the screen, and was frankly pretty infuriating to play against, but really cool and unique design, and I expect that to carry over to MK11 as well. But besides the Shadow Ninja, we've got Erron Black, and he has a very good chance of becoming my main as we move into MK11 if he plays even remotely similarly to how he was last game. That's because he has an absurd amount of swag and charisma. Super cocky, great design, but he backs all that stuff up with a gunslinger attitude and some awesome pressure. If you've never seen Sonic Fox play Erron Black, please do yourself a favor, go watch some tournament games on YouTube and watch as a Western cowboy gets down to business against some of the greatest fighters on the planet. It is a glorious thing to behold. I have always preferred the Tarkatan Blade variation. Gave you a way to end some combos with a hard knockdown and pretty brutal DOT damage. Caltrap to stop people from running at you, and you could stack that on top of poison from your blade. And I just felt like Erron Black vibed with me. Like he just hit all the right notes. And to see him with this new gear system and all this customization we've got in MK11, fully kit him out, it has me super hype. So, definitely a lot of OG and returning characters that have me very excited, but there are some downsides to this roster too. No one's ever going to be 100% happy, and I get that, but I do think there are a couple weird choices. So, no Goro is kind of a huge feels bad man for me, because he was one of my best characters, and he was one of my favorite characters from the entire setting. Really unique feel for rushdown and command grabbing, and obviously the Shokan aesthetic is awesome. And I feel like they did him kind of dirty in MK11 from what we've seen so far, because in the comics, he got all 4 of his arms ripped off by Kotal Kahn, and here, it seems like he's gonna die off screen and not get any part to play in the story at all, kind of withering away to dust as the years flow by. You can actually see his forgotten corpse in the background of his own map. That's the Shokan's lair, or Goro's lair. And I feel like that's kind of a rather unfitting end for the Prince of the Shokan. Quintessential badass who might not even get DLC in this game. So I might be jumping the gun here, don't know for sure, but at least in terms of this final roster before we start looking at DLC characters down the line, doesn't look like he's going to be in it. There's no Rain, another very popular ninja who can control the weather, lightning and water and all that. He's really fun to play in MK9 and had some crazy abilities like the water bubble and kicks so hard they would actually make you go around the world in half a second. He was honestly set up quite a bit in the story mode of MKX, had a big part to play there as kind of like Melina's bid for the throne. And he even had his own design and character model in that game as well. He just wasn't made playable, which kind of was a tease that people weren't very fond of because they wanted to play him and you saw his model there, same with Baraka, and you just couldn't use him at all. So more than anything, he knew how to play rough with the Adinian girls, so I think he's going to be kind of a sad one to miss out on, and to see him get skipped over again kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty tired of the Cage family in general, and I'm tired of the Black Dragon group, and I'm tired of Spec Ops characters in general. This is a setting with immortal sorcerers and powerful creatures, elementals and gods, and yet every game it feels like these boring-ass humans with very uninspired design for some of them get a disproportionate amount of screen time. And I can kind of see the appeal kind of like the Empire and Warhammer, right? Just regular dudes and dudettes fighting the monsters and demons against all odds. I get it. Cassie was the main character of MKX. She needs to return. And Johnny and Sonya are OG, and Johnny is hilarious. So it makes sense to have one of them, maybe two of them, but we don't need all three. That's a huge portion of the roster being filled up by very similar aesthetics and playstyles. Same kind of green energy thing going on as well. And it's the same thing with the Briggs family. Jackie was white bread and vanilla and uninspired, honestly, in MKX. Jax is already confirmed. We don't need both. We don't need 3 cages. That's 5 characters that feel like they're kind of wasted slots. Put in 2 or 3, maybe we're cool. Put in all 5 and suddenly that's 2 more characters that we could have had that have a much different playstyle and unique aesthetic going on. Honestly, the whole 3D era in general has kind of been getting wrecked by Ed Boon and people at NRS. There's no Havoc, no Fujin, no return of Kenshi or Takeda, which surprises me quite a bit because Kenshi has been in every single Mortal Kombat game since he first became playable 17 years ago, and Takeda was by far the most played combat kid in MKX, and arguably the most fun and well-designed of the bunch. So to see them not return is a little bit strange. Honestly, a lot of the characters from Deception and Deadly Alliance and Armageddon just aren't making it back, which kind of makes me sad. I think we're at a point now where I would much rather characters like Serena, or Reptile, or Smoke, or Ashra, or Fujin, Havoc, Raiko, Rain. I'd much rather those characters become DLC than guest characters from other licenses. There are definitely some awesome ones NRS could tackle. I think Spawn is certainly up there and fits with the aesthetic of Mortal Kombat pretty nicely, but at the end of the day, I want MK games to focus on MK, and there are literally dozens of characters at this point that have been fleshed out, that are deserving of more fleshing out, that should be included, rather than some random movie character that have nothing to do with the setting. But unfortunately, guest characters pull a kind of disproportionate amount of weight here, because they attract new customers at a much higher rate than someone like Serena would. If I see Pennywise the Clown make it in, I'm gonna bust a nut, and not in a good way. It's a stupid idea. I'm frankly kind of done with the whole horror movie shtick. We had Leatherface and we had Jason. Just make a separate fighting horror game. I'm fine with that. It doesn't really have a place in MK, and this is coming from someone who played a lot of Jason in MKX. I honestly really enjoyed the character. NRS does it well. They do a good job with them. They do a good job making them fit. They're just less deserving than the real MK fighters who deserve more fleshing out. So in my opinion, they should just dump those, stop doing the guest stuff, and keep it actual MK. But I'm curious what you guys think about that, or what you think about guest characters in general, because it is a pretty divisive topic, and I get why people like seeing those crossovers, because they are very cool nods, and I think there's an element of that that is pretty dope. So with all that said, I do think this is a really solid roster. Ed Boon was not lying when he said a ton of OG and fan favorite characters would be coming back. They will never be able to please everyone, and I'm perfectly happy with it. I'm actually quite happy with the roster so far, but I think with a few changes, it would be even better, and so I'm very much looking forward to see what they do for the Combat Pack and the DLC, and if those characters will add some of those forgotten 3D era fighters that would really add quite a lot of awesomeness to the game. So I think MK11's focus on a neutral game could be a really good thing for the series going forward, but I'm not sure I'm in love with taking away combos to the extent that they have. One of my favorite things to do when learning a character for the first time is to get those 30 or 40% combos down and show them off and try to incorporate that into my playstyle when I play online. Landing those on a real person is by far the most satisfying thing in MK for me. So seeing those 15-hit juggle combos that just really look swaggy and take a lot of skill and timing, seeing those kind of get taken out of the game and replaced with crushing blows that deal the same amount of damage in one hit, I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of. Now, of course, they've not completely gotten rid of combos, but they have kind of cut back on how long they will last and how you're able to pull them off. And so, many of the characters still have some element of that there, but for example, watching Jade's gameplay and hearing the devs talk about her, it kind of did scare me a bit. They were talking about how she's not really a combo character at all. Doesn't really have ways to combo people or juggle them, and the gameplay definitely reflected that. All her stuff was super short and didn't look that flashy. So I think there's a happy medium to be struck there between making people not feel powerless when they're getting comboed for like 15 full seconds in the corner, but also giving them the ability to combo and use those tools to do stuff that looks and feels awesome. and I'm not 100% convinced yet that they'll nail that perfectly on launch day. I think the crushing blows mechanic is a good one, but I'm not sure it goes far enough to really be able to completely replace how satisfying combos are, but we'll see. I don't mean to be negative at all. I love the vast majority of what we've seen from MK11 so far. The focus on a neutral game, on whiff punishing, and taking away that huge emphasis on rushdown and 50-50 scenarios, which was kind of a plague in MKX, where you kind of just sprint at people and then always force them into these really awkward situations. I think those will be really good for getting people into the series and allowing them to wake up and actually press buttons for once, which MKX didn't always let you do. It was so fast-paced that sometimes you would just get completely run over and you'd have no real way to get it back to a neutral state. So the gameplay and visuals are stunning. I think it's going to be a really damn good fighting game, and I'm super hyped for it. Only issue is PC players can't actually get in on the beta, so we will not be able to play on March 28th, but I guess soon after that, on April 23rd, we will go live, and I'm looking to hopefully, we'll see, get early access or something to be able to do a review or some tutorials before the game goes completely live. But either way, I will be making MK11, well, I will probably be making guides, but content in general, and I hope you guys can be there to join me as we take that step into the fighting game universe. So let me know, what are you feeling about the roster? How are you feeling about the game overall? Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you all in the next video. Indie Pride, signing out for now. Have a good one, guys.